My name is Paul Zedler. I'm professor of biology at San Diego State University and director of the San Diego State University Field Stations. The university acquired the Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve in the early 60s as a court settlement involving the estate of a gentleman named Murray Schloss. And since then, and especially in recent years, we've added to it through leases with the U.S. Bureau of Land Management and lands acquired in cooperation with the Nature Conservancy, so that now we have something over 4,000 acres that are part of the field station. The Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve is used for teaching and research, and so it is the site of many different research projects over the year. We have people from University of California Riverside and University of California San Diego who are running trap lines. Again, it's a site for a larger study. We have, in the recent past, had studies funded by US EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. We have foreign cooperators, so there are many different things that are going on. At the time the university acquired the field station, and we have aerial photographs that show this very dramatically, the area of the reserve couldn't be distinguished in a huge area of ranch land and chaparral and coastal sage scrub. The same air photos of the same area today show a very different picture, and we are gradually becoming an island in an urban and suburban sea. Of course, we have people are a problem. They don't always stay on the trails, and in any case, we try to regulate access because we're trying to save it, as they say, for research and teaching. The river is a big issue with us because it's in the nature of rivers that anything that happens upstream is felt downstream. That's the natural course of things. So the development in the upper watershed, for example, gives us a heavier sediment load than we would have otherwise, a heavier nutrient load. The exotic species I mentioned come pouring down the river. So we're kind of on the receiving end of ranch land and chaparral and coastal sage scrub. The same air photos of the same area today show a very different picture, and we are gradually becoming an island in an urban and suburban sea. Of course, we have people are a problem. They don't always stay on the trails, and in any case, we try to regulate access because we're trying to save it, as they say, for research and teaching. The river is a big issue with us because it's in the nature of rivers that anything that happens upstream is felt downstream. That's the natural course of things. So the development in the upper watershed, for example, gives us a heavier sediment load than we would have otherwise, a heavier nutrient load. The exotic species I mentioned come pouring down the river. So we're kind of on the receiving end, not so much as they are at the mouth of the river, but because the Santa Margarita here passes through a narrow gorge, of course we get all of the impacts of the area upstream. The primary reason scientifically why we study these areas, they serve as references that we can use to compare to areas where human impacts are much more felt. So the ability to do experiments in an environment where you have some control and to have the long-term observations, plots that you've marked that can be referred to over a long period of time. In that sense, that is probably the key importance of field stations. We are involved with many agencies in the formation and management of Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve. So, for example, the land acquisition has involved the California Department of Transportation through a grant program they have for the acquisition of lands, the Nature Conservancy, who have taken on as one of their objectives in Southern California, working with us to write proposals to purchase land. We're cooperatively with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, MWD, because their aqueduct crosses our land, and so we work with them on the maintenance of roads and gates. We interact with the U.S. Bureau of Land Management in a big way because they actually own several thousand acres within the reserve, which they are leasing to us and they cooperate in many ways to help us do our job. We also work with the California Department of Fish and Game because they own a piece of land on the edge of the reserve, which is not at this moment actually part of the reserve, but it's managed cooperatively, and we're in cooperation with them. And of course, California Fish and Game also has responsibilities on wildlands in other ways, so that we interact with them. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service doesn't own any land here, but they've conducted work on the reserve, and we're in touch with them on a number of issues. The Fallbrook Public Utility District owns land just outside of the reserve on the river, and they have been very cooperative on issues related to the reserve. It's the Friends of the Santa Margarita River are some of our supporters and assist us in various ways. It's really a multi-agency, multi-organizational group. So we can't do this job alone, and the university, I know you've heard this one before, but we feel we're underfunded, so we have to get by on a relatively small amount of money, and that would be impossible to do without the support of all these groups.